Harden. Slip pass to Smith inside. Jones, shot blocked. Green and Barnes were right there. Here comes Curry. Curry for three. Bang!
He did it again, and the Warriors did it again. Another win at Oracle Arena, and the Dubs lead the Western Conference Finals 1-0. Rick Kamla, Hall of Famer Isaiah Thomas, and Minnesota Timberwolves assistant coach Sam Mitchell. Yeah, it's been a big night for Sam and the Wolves, but we're here to talk about Game 1, and Stephen Curry made history in the last round with back-to-back games with at least 6 threes. In fact, he had 14 total in games 5 and 6 against Memphis. He did it again. Stephen Curry had 6 threes, first player in NBA playoff history to rip off 3 consecutive games with 6 or more threes, had 21 of his 34 in the second half. The MVP was exactly that tonight.
He was that, and, again, he takes all the big guys, he bring them out to the deep water. They can't swim out there, and they leave them wide open, and, he's just draining threes. I mean, it's just like, his shot is flawless and effortless. And, now that move there, the push-off, this is what, I take offense to that because defensively, and I'm all about the defense now. Defensively, you're not allowing us to hand check, right? But now you're allowing the offensive player to push off.
Use his hands.
Yeah, so it's like you can't have it, it can't be, it's got to be even. You can't let the offensive players push off and the defensive players can't hand check. So the referees got to start calling that push off, because guys are now, earlier we thought people were just, he was faking them out. But now we're seeing it's not really a fake out. I mean, he's just taking his hand and he's shoving them or he's giving them the hip. And those got to be called fouls.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, but look, you look at
But
Steph,
he is good.
You look at Steph, and I think what Isaiah is saying, when look, he made 6 threes, but the thing that makes him so tough is when you switch, he's quick enough, he's crafty enough, and he's explosive enough to beat the big guys and take them to the basket finish. And with Dwight Howard being nicked up when Josh Smith fell into that knee, not being the same, because Josh Smith started off, Dwight Howard started off pretty strong. When he had that little injury where Josh Smith crashed into him, it just opened up the lane for Steph Curry. So now, if you're Houston, you had Dwight Howard to protect the rim for Steph Curry and Klay Thompson when they were driving. And if you look at that second quarter when Houston had them down, they just drove to the basket, just put their head down, drove to the basket, and scored with no Dwight Howard. It's going to be interesting now to see if Dwight Howard is not the guy that we think he needs to be, then can they compete with Golden State? Because you have to chase them off that three-point line, Steph Curry and Klay Thompson. And if there's no Dwight Howard back there to alter, change, or block shots, then there's no way you can defend them.
So, and I want to ask you, as a former coach and a current coach, was it, in your opinion, a decision made by Kevin McHale based on Dwight Howard being injured and couldn't go? Or because Dwight Howard was on the bench in the fourth quarter watching. He played just a few ticks in that fourth quarter. Or because Golden State downsized, did Houston downsize? Do you think Howard could have gone back in that game?
I didn't think Howard, after the injury, when he went back in, I didn't think he was effective. I thought he was hobbling. I thought he was favoring his knee. And consequently, they lost momentum after that injury, and they put him back in. So I thought McHale made the right decision because the game was up-tempo, and I didn't think Howard was confident enough in his knee to really give a great performance like we've been seeing him do in the playoffs.
Yeah, I agree with Isaiah. I mean, look, if you're Kevin McHale, you got to look at what your advantage is. You know your advantage is not at the 1 and 2. You have James Harden, but Klay Thompson, Steph Curry, combined, they're just too good. So your advantage is your inside presence, your being able to dominate them in the inside. Without Dwight Howard, and if you watch this game, early on in the game, they was pounding the ball inside to Dwight Howard. But after that injury, he wasn't the same. He couldn't even, you could tell his focus was off because he was dropping passes that he normally catch and finish. And without Dwight Howard being in that center, I'm telling you, Steph Curry can, on a switch, he can beat guys off the dribble or create enough space to shoot the jumper. They're going to need a healthy Dwight Howard to hold down the paint because you got to send those guys and funnel them somewhere. And if you go back to Dwight Howard glory years in Orlando, when he took a average Orlando team, put them on his back and waited to the finals, they're going to need that type of effort to beat Golden State because they got too many guys that can foul and shoot. And even though Draymond Green and Harrison Barnes and these other guys can make threes, they don't make them like Klay Thompson and Steph Curry. You cannot let those two guys continue to beat you. So it's going to be important that Dwight Howard, if he's not healthy, I just don't see Houston having a chance to win the game because your advantage is him. And if he's not healthy, look, a 70% Dwight Howard in this series is not going to get it done. He's got to be as close to 100% as possible.
Dwight Howard had 7 points and 13 rebounds in just over 26 minutes. Now, as they mentioned on the broadcast, Mike Breen and Jeff Van Gundy and Mark Jackson, and with Doris Burke running the sideline, Howard left with a left knee injury, and he missed 41 games in the regular season with a right knee injury. So you can look at it, either he's got 2 bad wheels or it wasn't the one that he missed half the season with. I guess it's if you're glass half full or glass half